Back in the room, the man taps the gun lightly, a controlled sound meant to measure your reaction rather than provoke it. You assess the situation without emotion. Refusal would expose you immediately, triggering containment. Compliance would preserve your position but eliminate any remaining distance between your role and your identity. There is no neutral outcome, no option that restores what you were before. Your hand moves toward the weapon with deliberate precision, your breathing steady, your thoughts reduced to calculation. Exposure risk, continuation probability, operational value. Morality is no longer part of the equation. It was removed long before this moment. As your fingers close around the cold metal, time passes without clear markers. Advancement within the system is procedural, indicated by increased access and responsibility rather than acknowledgement. You begin handling others, observing the same disorientation in them that once defined you, guiding them not with instruction but through structured pressure, because that is how you were shaped. The system reveals itself through patterns, unwritten rules, precise financial movements, operations measured in minutes and seconds. You learn to survive through creative compliance, following instructions exactly while adjusting execution just enough to remain functional. Outside this structure, your personal life dissolves quietly. Communication fades, relationships weaken without confrontation, and isolation becomes the only consistent condition. You begin to prefer it, not because it offers comfort, but because it removes unpredictability. Years later, the illusion breaks without warning. An operation unfolds with perfect precision, every variable accounted for, including failure. You realize then that you were never operating within the system as an individual. You were a component, optimized and replaceable. The sense of control you believed you had was only a function of your usefulness. Soon after, your assignments decrease, not abruptly but gradually until communication stops entirely. Access is removed, channels closed, and you are released without explanation. There is no extraction, no acknowledgement, only absence. Months later, sitting in a public space with no active identity to maintain, you notice a familiar pattern. A man entering, sitting across from another, placing an object carefully at the center of a table. You don't need to look directly to understand what is happening. The system has not ended. It has continued, adjusted, replaced. And as you sit there, unobserved or perhaps simply unimportant, you understand with clarity that you were never meant to leave it, only to be part of its cycle until you weren't needed anymore. You don't hear the door open. You only notice when the air shifts and someone is already sitting across from you. The room is controlled, sealed, held at a constant 19 degrees, with a faint electrical hum from the light above that never flickers. The table between you is empty until he places a handgun at the center, aligned with exact precision. No explanation follows and none is needed. You understand immediately that this is not about the weapon but about your response to it. You weren't brought into this life in a single moment. It happened gradually over 4 years, through small requests that became obligations, then leverage, then dependency. Your financial records were flagged, your communications monitored, your options reduced until compliance became the only stable outcome. Your identity was erased in stages. First your work, then your connections, then your name, replaced by a sequence of constructed identities you were trained to memorize and inhabit without hesitation. Now your days are structured around controlled unpredictability. You wake in unfamiliar places, adopt new roles, adjust your voice, posture, and behavior to match whatever version of yourself is required. You study people constantly, tracking patterns in their speech, movement, and reactions, learning to detect inconsistencies without ever reacting to them. Trust no longer functions normally. Anything that appears reliable demands closer scrutiny. Sleep is fragmented into short, efficient cycles, and every waking moment is spent maintaining alignment between your assigned identity and your observable behavior. Mistakes are not corrected, they are absorbed into consequences that cannot be reversed. When a message arrives at 2:40, 6 minutes earlier than protocol allows, you recognize the deviation instantly. The format is correct, the encryption intact, but the timing is wrong. You follow the instructions anyway because deviation from orders creates greater risk than potential compromise. As you move through the designated route, you notice subtle changes, the reduced traffic, the unnatural quiet, and then the repetition of a figure appearing twice in separate reflections. The pattern confirms what you already suspect. You've been identified, not fully, but enough to reduce your margin for survival to almost nothing.